So, guys, ever since the Cowboys hired Christian Parker, we've been saying one thing: this defense is different. Every training camp update has shown small signs that his system is taking shape, but we also said the real test would come once the pads went on. Well, that test is here, and Christian Parker's defense completely took over the Cowboys' first padded practice. They played faster, more physical, and looked like the best version of this defense we've seen so far. Let me break down what happened, who stood out, and why Christian Parker's impact is becoming impossible to ignore. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, before I get into the defense, I want to run through some injury news because there's a bit to cover here. 3 of these we already knew about, and 1 is new: PJJ. Locke is still recovering from his hyperextended knee. He was in pads today, but he didn't do anything physical, so that's just some progress being made, nothing more than that right now. Jalen Thompson is dealing with a hip flexor, and the team is saying he's doing great, just not back yet. Doesn't sound like anything to be worried about there. Zion Childress is probably going to be out a little longer as he works through a hamstring injury. And honestly, that's not what you want to hear because he's fighting for a spot on this roster or even a practice squad spot. Now, here's the one that isn't great news. Princeton Fant ended up limping off the field today. He got bent up on a run play, pushed back awkwardly, and it looked like it affected his lower body. He needed help getting off the field and eventually got carted off. Calvin Watkins is reporting that Fant is going to get an MRI on what looks like a knee injury, and that just doesn't sound good for him and for the Cowboys right now. Fant was one of the guys fighting for that tight end 3 spot, and honestly, he had a real shot at pushing Luke Schoonmaker out of a role, with Brevin Spanford and Jake Ferguson ahead of him on the depth chart. So, I'm hoping Fant ends up being okay, but as of right now, it just doesn't look great. Alright, now let's get into what everybody's been waiting for because it was the first day in pads, and this Cowboys defense had, without question, its best showing of camp so far. And honestly, this is exactly what we've been talking about with Christian Parker. You could see it up front with the defensive line. Guys like Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark were winning their reps and creating problems in the backfield. Rashawn Gary was flashing a little bit against Terrence Steele on the outside, which is a fun little battle to watch develop. DeMarvion Overshown was laying the lumber, literally blowing up a run play against Hunter Luepke, and there just wasn't much room to operate for this Cowboys offense against Parker's defense. On top of that, you had a bunch of different defensive backs making plays and flashing during red zone work. All in all, it was a really good sign. And honestly, if this defense can win a little bit against how talented this offense should be, that's a promising sign for Dallas going into the season. Now, I don't want to make it sound like the offense had nothing go their way today, because that's not true either. They had some good moments too. In red zone work, CeeDee Lamb picked up some wins, George Pickens made a couple of really nice plays, and Jake Ferguson caught 1 or 2 touchdowns. Ryan Flournoy even had a heck of a touchdown himself. The big picture thing I keep coming back to is that I actually want to see both sides of the ball winning reps. If it's only the defense dominating or only the offense dominating, honestly, that usually means the other side just isn't good enough yet. You want that back and forth, where the defense wins some reps, and the offense answers back and wins some too. That's when you know both units are actually pushing each other and getting better, instead of one side just getting beat down over and over. And from what I saw today, that's exactly what we got. Okay, now let's talk about individual players, because there's a lot to get into here, starting with the guy everybody's buzzing about. Jaishawn Barham continues to show no signs of slowing down. He once again got a bunch of first-team reps today, stepping in for D. Winters more often than not, lining up right alongside DeMarvion Overshown. And that's a big deal because the Cowboys clearly aren't playing games with the whole, well, the young guy has to earn it approach. This is basically a brand new defense, and Jaishawn Barham is earning those reps by actually showcasing some really impressive stuff, including some stunt ability where they're moving him around, starting him off ball at linebacker, and then shifting him down into more of an edge rusher role on certain snaps. It even reminds me a little of how the Eagles used Zack Baun, moving him around to maximize his versatility, and now Christian Parker is using Jaishawn Barham in a similar way. So, going into camp, I honestly viewed him as a wild card. I wasn't sure how he'd look off ball after playing so much on the edge last year. But it's looking like maybe we're finally seeing a role that fits his skill set better than what we saw at Michigan. Now, I'll be honest, I don't want to overhype one single rep where it looked like he beat the offensive line on a stunt, because that was a good rep by everybody involved, not just him. But it's still an encouraging sign this early in camp. And then we have Caleb Downs. He had one of the better run fits I saw all day, coming down from a nickel linebacker type position, reading it, and blowing up the hole by himself. That's exactly the kind of instinct you want from him. He also did some solid things in coverage, and honestly almost came up with a pick in a red zone drill. Then you had Cobie Durant, who I think made the play of the day. The offense was running an underneath route as a clear out, with CeeDee Lamb working across the field toward the pylon on the underneath option. Durant wasn't even looking at Dak Prescott when the ball came out. He was watching Lamb the entire time, saw him break underneath, and completely abandoned his original assignment to undercut the route and pick it off. That would have been a pick six in a real game. And honestly, you can't even be upset with Dak on that one, because that's just elite instincts and awareness from Durant to make that read and jump the route like that. DaRon Bland did give up a near interception on a nice play by Ryan Flournoy, but again, that's exactly what you want, both sides of the ball making plays and competing. Then the Cowboys keep giving Shavon Revel Jr. first team reps as well, and he made the most of it today with 3 or 4 pass breakups. It was mostly shorter routes though, since the Cowboys haven't really pushed the ball down the field much yet, and honestly, that's probably intentional. They usually start short in camp and build up to the deeper stuff as things go on. I'd actually go as far as saying I think Dak Prescott is testing Revel on purpose. I think Dak and the coaching staff know they need to figure out where everybody stands, and Dak is clearly trying to force some tighter window throws to see what he can get away with. And I think he's specifically testing guys like Revel because that's what you're supposed to do in camp. You don't want your quarterback only throwing at one matchup every rep, because that doesn't tell you much heading into the season. Sure, you pick on the weaker matchups sometimes, but in camp, it's actually a good thing to see some interceptions. That means guys are testing each other instead of playing it safe, and right now, I think Dak is really good at doing exactly that at this stage of his career. We'll see if it translates once the season starts, especially considering how much this defense struggled a year ago. So, before I wrap things up, I want to touch on a couple quick notes about the offensive line. Tyler Guyton did not actually work with the second team at right tackle like some reports suggested earlier today. That got cleared up. It was just a jumbo package rep, where the staff didn't want to shuffle around the extra linemen already working with the twos at that point. So Guyton, who's done a little tight end work before, just filled in real quick for that one look. Outside of that, the majority of his reps today were at left tackle, where he's expected to be. I did see Nate Thomas get a rep or two in there at left tackle as well, but for the most part, it was Guyton's spot. The Cowboys have talked about running some kind of 4-day rotation at that position, and if that's the case, then tomorrow is when that rotation is supposed to flip again. So it'll be worth watching whether we see more of Nate Thomas at left tackle, or if this really is just becoming Tyler Guyton's job to lose at this point. Based on what I've seen so far, he's actually looked pretty solid, and I haven't noticed too many concerning reps from him yet. Last thing before I let you go, a quick preseason update. Brian Schottenheimer said, like most people expected, that the Cowboys are not planning on playing most of their starters much during the preseason. But I do think a few guys will still get some run like Guyton and Tyler Booker. But guys like Tyler Smith, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, and Javonte Williams likely won't see the field in preseason games at all. As for Caleb Downs, no decision has been made yet on whether he'll play, but there's still a couple of weeks, maybe a bit more, for the coaching staff to figure that out. Overall, though, this team is going to be cautious with their star players during preseason, more so than a lot of other teams around the league. And if Downs does end up playing, it's probably going to be a pretty limited role, likely under 20 snaps. So that's everything from day one in pads for the Dallas Cowboys. The defense clearly had the better day overall. And honestly, if Christian Parker's system keeps building like this could end up being a completely different unit than what we saw last season. Let me know in the comments who stood out to you the most, and I'll see you in the next one. Cowboys Nation.